okay, pretty much, that they will use like existing resources to increase some kind of funding, and they will then improve the equipment and blah, blah, blah. So maybe the argumentation is good, maybe it's not, but we have no idea if it is good or not, because they didn't have any ex-ante analysis, any analysis before they started to implement that kind of measure. And otherwise, it will be a great argumentation, just to tell the people, okay, our decision is based on clear evidence that and projection that we will, have improved the health service, we will have a better condition for the people in the hospitals and that kind of stuff.
Well, let's say civil society organization could play a role also in dissemination of a lot of information. Previously, let's say, being a part of planning and analyzing and taking sources of information, reliable sources of information, and influencing from that part, so making the grounds for. But as it was mentioned before, like being a part of the agenda, so it could be complementary to that agenda, so helping from the civil society. It was mentioned from the Croatian colleague as well, so that the role of civil society, which could be quite effective in relation to this, so that not decision makers would not be the first and the last actors who will be in charge. So I believe that that's complementary role, as mentioned before, could be established, and not just to wait afterwards while governments act, and then after that just to make protests, and also to, therefore maybe by meaning in being a part of the agenda is like starting from initial steps of involvement. So not necessarily when the parliament is doing their work and they are where the law affects us afterwards. So it's not only that part that we will try to be involved and just evaluating afterward. Organizations, well, central, local level, they are not doing their part very good in informing citizens of how they could participate, firstly. Secondly, although there might be a few civil society organizations that might know the mechanism of how they could participate on that, let's say from some discussions that I have in Kosovo and in Albania, that also in Macedonia, in some parts, that there are some kind of division is already made, but always, most of the time, governmental officers, they say that civil society organizations, they don't show interest. Even citizens themselves, by not being a part, they could come, but they never show. We have a kind of meeting, but in other ways, civil society organizations, they always complain that governmental organizations, well, municipalities, and they don't inform us. They just put one paper somewhere in the municipality, and that's it. So it's just so that I guess a communication part would be an efficient tool, let's say, for civil society organization on how to, but that needs information. So you just don't need that to communicate. That you need to gather some basic information first, so that you know where to go and how to react then. In most of the democratic countries, it's like it's openness of institutions in terms of civil society organization. They are from the constitution up to the local regulations. But that needs a little bit.
Just one.
Well, let's say
example.
if we take this participatory budgeting, it started in Brazil and South America, and which is they started in some very rural areas. They didn't have a clue about even how budgeting occurs within yes?
And I know a little bit about Venezuelan example. They, in community level, like not only civil society organization, but normal citizens, they have kind of budgets allocated by government, and they can decide where to spend that budget, even in the small community level, in the districts. I don't know if it's worked well, but I never heard any examples like that in Northern Europe, or if, maybe I'm ignorant, but in Europe or in my country. If you know, you can just tell me. And
Well, participatory budgeting, it's mainly during the during the 50s, 60s, but during the 70s mainly that started implementing in southern part of America. And during 80s and 90s started in some cases in Europe, like Spain and Italy. Well, let's say, from my part, in Balkans, we were, this participatory budgeting part, we were starting to develop it in Albania. With the help, well, USAID funded, but our part was to localize this into local governments, and we have like a pilot project. It was in Elbas. There are four towns in Albania. So mainly it was participatory budgeting. It was like all priorities are set by municipalities, so it's not like involvement in that process directly. But there are some participatory involvement in terms of influencing it, not necessarily because, as we discussed before, during the end of the year, I mean, every municipality says in terms of we won't discuss that further because of the data of their how municipality, how many inhabitants there are, and all these things. But the thing is that every municipality has its budget, and how it's going to be expanded, it relies mostly in many countries or only by municipality officers who say the word and wording, and they made a consensus themselves. But there is a part where in municipal assemblies civil society organizations also, they could kind of influence from their part and be a part of the discussion as well. Most of the democratic countries have that regulated on the in the municipality level. Let's say it was mentioned in a questionnaire. This, and we followed that path. So we made some certain, let's say, and that affected. We immediately applied with a participatory planning. Let's say in Elbasan, it's school. It was one school. It was not that priority for the municipality, but being a part of initial phase before that year. So civil society organization played quite a good role in making that a priority, so that that was included in the budget for upcoming year. And the committee was with different stakeholders, main stakeholders, including the director of the school, municipality officers who work on that area in construction, then from civil society itself, like from citizens. So it was a small committee formed, and then they done participation. They were involved on that also in planning. So the architect was from one civil society organization, was quite involved, although he was useful. He provided with all the material where it could be included, white children and all that. So it was so that from the initial phase, for upcoming year, they will involve in two of the ways of participation. So budget, but these are the rarest cases, I would like to say, but that could be quite important. Civil society organization to take part initially, so that they might even refer to that budget by being a part in planning afterwards. But then you need information with certain department with a municipality, because they are the door where you do the planning, when you have information, then all the documentation, and you take.
You can use and involve citizens in the desk research phase. That's why I'm asking. Usually we don't have time and resources to do that. But if we want to organize the real participatory research, for example, it is going to look like this, that you involved citizens or the target groups in each phases. So in the research design, you also can include, for example, if you're working on poverty-affected children, if you want to do participatory research, you will involve the children from the beginning when you start to design your research. So not just when you as a team of experts or in one organization, and then usually we design the research, and then we are using focus groups or some kind of techniques participatory to get their inputs. If we want to have like a complete participatory research, we will involve them in designing phase. Why that is important? For example, if you're doing something related to the young people, if you don't involve them in this designing phase, your methodology might be a little bit wrong. Maybe it will be perfect, but you will increase your chances to have a good methodology, especially when you use the young people to create questionnaires, for example. It will be a completely different position than if you, as an expert, you design completely the instrument. So that's how, even in this desk research and comparative analysis, you can involve citizens and to use their point of view to pay attention on different segments which can be important for them.
Hello everybody, I'm Tanya Zanets. I'm Youth Program Coordinator coming from an organization called Civic Initiatives. The topic of the session is actually a citizen participation, and I'm coming from the organization who's actually having this as a key word in what we are doing, in our mission, in our activities, and my specifically focus is on youth. So somehow our mission is to strengthen civil society through education, promotion of democracy and active citizenship. And we start somehow to work in '96. So it passed more, in '96 actually, as when our colleagues and the people who was very much involved in civic movements and specifically in anti-war movements somehow decide to create an organization who will somehow support and enhance participants, citizens to fight against the regime in that way, to go outside from the big cities to the small areas and support any kind of activities of the citizens that citizens at that place recognized as important for them. I can say that we have two phases in our development as an organization, and somehow the borderline was 2000 and the threat of the regime. Until 2000, we tried to support civic education, civic participation, civic activism anywhere in the local communities. But after that, we actually start to make some focus and to recognize what is our main targets and how to develop some specifically programs for that specific target. So we have developed and still continue something that we started before, civil society development program. We start to develop civic education program to be more involved in schools, because we see that this is an area where we can make much of the impact. And we develop interethnic programs, since we still recognize that the ethnic minorities will need to be supported. And the last but not the least is the youth program. Actually, we recognize the youth as one of the marginalized group and one of the most vulnerable group in society that needs some kind of support. And the program, youth program, actually is my area, and I'm developing youth programs since 2000. Whatever we was doing until 2000 and after 2000, actually the keyword is the citizen participation, and that's something that we try to support in different way in different networks, mostly through education, but also through networking, through support of fundraising for the organization. And we are also one of the hosts of one of the biggest network of the NGOs here in a country called FANS, that actually has more than 400 members. I will try to somehow show you how we did and support all this year actually youth participation through the institution mostly, and through different kind of processes in different phases of